I just kind of want to put a disclaimer out there for anyone who is watching this video and who has been watching my videos. Little background about the recent videos I've been putting out. I film them within my like 2 hours of free time that I have after work. Not really 2 hours, but I have a full-time job, so I go to that and come home and spend my time filming videos and then editing the videos, which takes up all of my free time after work. Ideally, I would be able to go out and about and do more creative things that aren't just in my dark apartment, but you know, this is where I am right now in life. I have a full-time job and I want to create things that are for myself. So we are left with the 4 hours that I have to myself after work. So I'm utilizing those hours to film and edit. So I just want to put that out there that these videos are a very organic conversation. I have more to offer, I promise. When I do have the time, I love taking the time to construct very creative, well thought out videos. But when I don't have time, might as well just connect through thoughts and conversation. It's been very therapeutic for me, so I hope that it does something for you. Hello. Hey. Sexism. I said the S word. Sexism. Sex. It out here, boy. Sexism is out here, boy. I've experienced it in my 11 months in the workforce. For my ladies who are about to enter the corporate world and they're about to get a full-time job and they're gonna graduate soon, just keep a few things in mind. We're gonna stay pretty surface level-ish. I just want to kind of talk about what I've experienced, what I've noticed, and how to keep an eye out for sexism, because sometimes you don't even notice. Whether we know it or not, we are pretty brainwashed and socialized into not recognizing when something is sexist or not. I want to start off by saying that me as a person going into the working corporate world was a bit scary because I tend to be a passive person, but I can be aggressive if I need to be. And turns out that both ends of the spectrum can play against you. So I kind of consider myself more of a feminine, passive person naturally. But if I feel challenged, I will be aggressive, outspoken, and angry. Sometimes there's a good in-between. However, that good in-between isn't always translated by others as a good in-between that can hold their own. It's unfortunately translated to either a passive, mousy bitch that doesn't know how to stand up for herself, or it's translated as a bossy bitch that is just rude and stubborn. I've experienced both. I think that I've felt like the mousy passive girl, and I've felt like the loud, very outspoken girl. So let's talk about that. I've spoken about this in my video about vulnerability, but every time I start a new job, I get very nervous. First days of work are always the worst for me. And my surface level self, that first impression that you get, the first layer of Elena, is very shy, quiet, boring, and just doesn't really put much out there. Not always. Sometimes I come off pretty strong, but you just never know. Usually with jobs, I try to keep it very unexpressive, and that turns out to be very mousy and passive, shy, and that can be very debilitating when you do have very strong thoughts that are trying to fight through that front that you create for yourself as a safety blanket. if you find yourself to be a kind of shy person going into the working world, keep in mind that even though you might be shy to the people that you come across, don't be shy in your work. Just don't be hesitant in your work, because that comes off as timid, unsure, and not confident. And then you know what really fucking sucks? If you are too confident, then you are just full of yourself and you're a bitch. And same goes with approaching conflict. I have approached conflict too passively, and I've approached conflict too hands-on, where I just walked around the workplace kind of screaming about the problem. Not screaming, but I was very vocal about the problem at hand. I'm not gonna get into any details about the problem itself. I'm not gonna talk specifically about the specific problems I face because I don't wanna get sued. But just trust me that I have endured some sexist shit. Women tend to not even notice if someone's being sexist because we're so socialized and so brainwashed to think that that is just how it goes. But let's not get it twisted. So, an example of this. I have been in this situation where an authoritative figure has omitted criticism from me because he thought that I could not handle the criticism. He thought that he would hurt my feelings if he gave me this piece of criticism. This authoritative figure went to the men that were my coworkers at the same level as me to tell them any criticism that they had for me instead of going to me directly. They used the men as a buffer to tell me. And when I asked the messenger why there was a buffer between me and the authoritative figure, they said, well, so-and-so doesn't want to hurt your feelings. I said what you're not supposed to say in the work setting. No one really goes there, usually. But I said, that's fucking sexist. That's just an example. But all in all, sexism comes in forms that we don't always recognize. I had a coworker who didn't recognize that it was sexist, and she was a female. She was like, oh shit, like I didn't even see that as sexist, but you're right. The fact that he couldn't give us criticism because he thought he was gonna hurt our feelings and thought we were too fragile to gain any criticism is sexist. And it is. And it's debilitating to a woman who wants to grow as a professional because you have nothing to work with. You need criticism to grow. You need the devil's advocate. It's not always like, oh, they didn't treat me equally, they didn't pay me as much, they didn't give me the same perks that they gave this person. It's also not receiving the same amount of criticism because they just kind of put you in a different category when it comes to this profile that they come up with for each of their employees. Another form of, maybe not sexism, but just belittling that I've noticed in the workplace is being talked over. That shit makes me want to pull out my hair. I get that some people are just quick thinkers and they need to get the words out before the thought leaves their brain. That's okay. Sometimes, though, it's not that. It's that they're totally disregarding what you're talking about. They don't have time for you and they just want to talk over you. I hate being rushed in a conversation because I am the type of person that, and I've read articles about it, it takes longer for words to come out because thoughts are speeding through your brain. And it took a while for me to realize this, and I've been hard on myself for this because sometimes I can talk very slowly, and I swear it's because thoughts are just ramming through my brain. it took so long for me to realize that, but it's not the fact that I don't know what to say or that it's just blank. It's like there's so much going through that you are overwhelmed with how to word it, how it's going to come out properly. And when people are rushing you to talk, I mean, the message is not going to come out how it should, and we're not going to have effective communication between us as coworkers. And B, that's fucking rude. Like, whether or not you want to hear what I have to say, let me say it, because I have the right to that. It's just something I've noticed is being talked over. And let me rephrase this. Sometimes it is about being female, but sometimes it's also about being young or being naturally a passive and timid person, and how to stand your ground in the workplace. Keep in mind throughout this video, if I say female, it's not all about feminism and women. You can relate to this even if you're not a female. You can relate to this if you are young, if you are naturally timid, or if you're female. So I'm all three of those. I come off naturally as a very timid, shy person, and I'm also female, and I'm also young. And I've just observed how people have treated me throughout the work world, and it hasn't been all bad at all. Like, I really truly don't have terrible stories, but I've observed and I've learned, and there are things that have kind of, you know, rubbed me the wrong way. Another thing I've noticed, sometimes I explain a problem to someone and they interpret it as like a really dumb problem. Does that make sense? I'll say, like, this scenario happened, and they'll be like, oh, it's because you didn't do this, like a very obvious solution to the problem. And I'll say, no, I get that. This is my problem. They don't even visit the real complex problem because they assume it's a surface level, easy problem to fix. Does that make sense? You're presenting them the conflict, and before you can even finish, they cut you off and they give you the easiest answer to the stupidest question. It's like, you didn't even let me finish explaining the question, and then you cut me off and give me a dumb answer. Like, I found myself in this situation where I'm just like, I know, but this is the real problem. That's not the problem. Like, sometimes people just assume that you are confused at the dumbest problems, and that is very belittling. Again, not that everything, like, it's fine. If you're in a meeting and you don't like someone's work, a cool thing about being in the working world is you can tell them you don't like it. You have a sense of credibility. You have this job, you were hired, you have a voice. You have been given a sense of credibility to let people know if you like something or not. You get to have an opinion. In meetings, ask questions, challenge people. Don't be a yes man and just assume that everyone is doing great. Challenge people. Collaborate, critique, receive criticism back. Don't be timid when it comes to people interacting with you and how you interact with others. Just kind of break that, like, kind of feeling. Like, criticize others constructively and let people criticize you constructively. In fact, encourage it, because if people aren't giving you that criticism, it's kind of rude. So that's my kind of rant of the day. It was kind of quick. Was it quick? I don't know. But yeah, let me know if this is something that you can relate to if you are already in the working world, in the corporate world. Let me know what other forms you have come across when it comes to being belittled as a young millennial female, not female, or whatever, shy person. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go. Okay, bye.